Content. Will they say when? Go ahead.
Yeah,
okay.
fine.
So good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us this morning. This month, we recognize Indigenous History Month, a time of learning as we reflect on our commitment to truth and reconciliation. As we get into this morning's meeting, let us begin with our land acknowledgement. Let us take a moment to acknowledge that we are on the territorial, traditional areas of the Indigenous peoples, including the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. We are all treaty people. Many of us have come here as settlers and immigrants in this generation or generations past. Metrolinx declares its commitment to building meaningful relationships with Indigenous peoples. We acknowledge the historic and continued impacts of colonization and the need to work towards meaningful reconciliation with the original caretakers of this land. We acknowledge that Metrolinx operates on lands covered by 20 treaties and that we have a responsibility to recognize and value the rights of Indigenous nations and peoples and conduct business in a manner that is built on the foundation of trust, respect, and collaboration. Thank you. I'll now invite our Chief Communications Officer, David Jang, and Chief Operation Officer, Steve Levine, to share a couple of safety moments with us.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So here at Metrolinx, safety, as you know, continues to be a top priority for us, and we're always looking for new opportunities to share these messages with the communities that we serve. Recently, we had the opportunity to release quite a startling silent witness video from the front of the GO train. For those watching who don't know what a silent witness, as I didn't know, it's the camera mounted on the front of the train so you can see. We did this to really try to reinforce the dangers of walking on the train tracks. The video itself can be slightly upsetting to watch, but still an incredibly critical message for communities and for all of us to be reminded of. Miraculously, the young people in the video were not injured after what was a very close call. So I want to roll the tape and have you take a look at this video.
Yeah, there's no public. They're all watching on YouTube.
Right. Back.
So this terrifying incident happened on May 20th, 2022, so just recently. The video has now been viewed millions of times from audiences around the world. There were hundreds of national and international news stories done on the video. Media from the US to Europe to Japan all played the footage because, as you know, rail safety is a global and universal message. The blog on Metrolinx News also had more than 7,500 views, and the online reach was close to 200 million. So a real opportunity for us to share this message, and then not only to share it, but also engage in a conversation with the audiences in our communities about the importance of rail safety. And all this together helped us reach a massive audience with, again, our commitment to safety in our communities. Thank you.
Yeah, unfortunately, not all incidents that happen on the railway end as well as this one, and our thoughts go out to the families affected who are, unfortunately, two tragic incidents happened with Amtrak in the United States, one in Missouri and one in California in the last week. It really highlights the dangerous nature of being in and around the railway, and specifically about crossings. The crossings involved were uncontrolled crossings, which means there were no lights and no protection. And unfortunately, there's been at least 6 loss of life and many people have been injured. Across the Metrolinx network, we have 140 crossings. All of those are protected, but we also have private crossings that aren't as protected. So we're going to embark on a program in the next 3 years to upgrade all those crossings. We actually did work at 119 of them in the last year and reduced the safety risk of those crossings by around 13% through those actions. What we can do to improve the infrastructure, reliability and safety is one half of the problem, and one half of the solution for us to solve. And so as well as doing infrastructure works to improve the infrastructure and improve that safety, this year we'll also be twinning it with a campaign to go out to the public and work on the public behaviour, because we can only do this in partnership with others. The majority of incidents that we did have on our network on crossings was actually related to driver behaviour, not infrastructure failure. So the two together, we have an ambitious target over the next 3 years to reduce the risk at these crossings by around 30%, 33%, and we're going to work tirelessly to do that. And we're going to be setting up a dedicated team just to focus on this type of work and the improvements we can do. So certainly our thoughts go back to those families who have really suffered from this, and we can all learn, and we must learn and think about that.
Thank you, Steve. So at this time, I want to acknowledge that on June the 2nd, one of our board members, Rick Byers, was elected to the provincial government as MPP for the Bruce Grey Owen Sound area. And under the Public Service of Ontario Act, Rick's directorship on the Metrolinx board was automatically terminated upon his election to the provincial government. Rick was appointed to the Metrolinx board in 2019 and was a valuable member of the board's Capital Oversight Committee, Metrolinx and TTC's Joint Advisory Group, and our Audit, Finance and Risk Management Committee. We also said farewell to another board member, Diana Fletcher, whose term came to an end in March. Diana was appointed to the Metrolinx board in 2020, was an integral part of the Presto Committee. On behalf of the Metrolinx Board of Directors, I thank Rick and Diana for their service and contributions and wish them all the best in their future endeavors. At this time, I'd also like to officially welcome Deb Hutton and James Dodd to the board. Deb joined in February of this year. She brings with her over 3 decades of leadership experience in communications and media in both the public and private sector. James was appointed to the board in March and brings almost 20 years of expertise from the financial sector, where he serves as a senior executive. Deb and James, we welcome you to the board and look forward to working with you. The following correspondence has been received and distributed to our board. Letters regarding the Eglinton Crosstown West Extension from Neelan Brissenden on behalf of Stop the Trains in Our Parks Community Group, Mike Matos and Rick Ciccarelli on behalf of the Mount Dennis Eco Neighborhood Initiative, a letter from the York Southwestern Economic Working Group, as well as 8 separate letters from various individuals. We also received letters regarding the Ontario line from Kayz Azad on behalf of the Moss Park Coalition, as well as 10 separate letters from various individuals. All of these letters have been posted on our website. On our agenda today are our usual quarterly reports, along with presentations on updates on our customer campaign to welcome riders back, progress on our capital projects, our 2021-22 annual report, and an amendment to Metrolinx open payment bylaw. So that ends my comments, and I'll now pass it over to our CEO, Phil Verster, to give his CEO update. Over to you, Phil.
Thank you very much, Chair. This summer season comes with much excitement and promise as our organization achieves a new rhythm almost 2 years out, into a pandemic. We're happy to see the return of our riders and the gradual restoration of services to meet the increased movement of people across the region. As I've done at several other board sessions, I'd like to just start with a huge thank you to all our employees across all of the organization. Thank you to everyone on the front line, in our garages, in our workshops, in our stations, on our concourses, in our contact centers, dealing with customer issues and dealing with the essential services that we ran. And also a special welcome back to our office employees who have now started to come back into the office. And similarly, a huge thank you to our construction partners and the projects out there that have continued to take over and relentlessly build those projects that are important for the future of transit in the region. What's exciting about our services is that on Go, we've started to add coaches back into our train consists on all of our corridors to meet and exceed the demand levels we see as riders begin to return to the downtown core. Last month, we added a total of 16 weekday trips and 66 weekend Go trips between Barrie, Kitchener, and Stouffville on those lines. We also added 6 seasonal weekend trips on the Lakeshore West line with services all the way to Niagara Falls. And on June the 25th, we introduced the seasonal Go bus services to popular destinations, including Canada's Wonderland in Vaughan, St. Jacobs Market in Waterloo, and Toronto Premium Outlets in Alton Hills. And as air travel gains popularity again, Up Express ridership is also seeing positive growth. And Up trains are now running every 15 minutes on weekdays during peak times. And last month, we added 38 weekday trips back into the Up Express service. And we intend to do more during the next couple of months as we see ridership increases. And as of last week, Go weekend ridership is back to 100% of the pre-COVID ridership. This trend of people traveling for leisure early on has been a big indicator of what some of the travel behavior patterns is that we will expect to continue to see in the years to come. And towards the end of June, Go ridership recovery was at 45% of the pre-COVID level, and for Up Express at 56.6%. We're going to show you today some of our progress in the capital program and the significant milestones we've reached. And I'm so keen to talk about that, but I'm going to give it all to Matt to talk to and not spoil the fun of what Matt's going to share with you. But it's very, very exciting. In April, we achieved a major milestone on our Go expansion program. We signed an agreement with a consortium called On Express, which consists of Aecon, Alstom, FCC Construction SA, and Deutsche Bahn, which marks a critical point of this very complex, very important expansion of Go services across the region. As we work through the technical and financial details in what's called the development phase, we are hugely excited about this partnership and the potential that this consortium offers. The initial indications are that even what we had in our reference concept design as the economic benefits of a Go expansion can even be exceeded with the type of proposals that this consortium has put forward and bring huge journey time benefits and economic benefits to the region. What's also exciting is we'll soon be bringing Presto contactless payment to Go Transit and the first 905 transit agencies. Very, very exciting. And we'll be moving from pilot to launch on Up Express. The other agencies will, in a phased manner, be joining the first agencies that are getting this new payment option that give customers more choice and more convenience on how to pay their transit fares. Customer experience testing was completed with Go Transit and 905 agencies during the trial in the spring, and our teams are now completing the final testing. This is very exciting for us. Our work to make transit more affordable and accessible have delivered the free Go transfers together with 7 905 transit agencies. This means customers using a Presto card automatically receive a 100% discount on local fares when they connect to and from Go Transit at Brampton, Burlington, Durham Region, Hamilton Streetcar, Street Railway, My Way, Oakville, and York Region Transit. This is a big step towards integration of fares. We also implemented our discounted fares for youth and post-secondary student, and this gives Presto card holders now a 40% discount on their fares, up from the previous 23%. All of this would stimulate more ridership in the region. Even as we have seen continued improvement in our safety performance as an organization, I want to share with you the sad, fatal incident involving a Crosslinks Transit Solutions subcontract worker at the Cedarville Station site last month. This incident is still under investigation, but we will ensure that lessons from this incident is shared throughout our supply chain. Tragedies like these remind us of the full impact of safety management on a day-to-day basis, every day, every week, every year, and how important that is in order to make the delivery of our projects safe. As you saw from the video David shared earlier during our safety briefing, safety affects everyone in the community, even youths that, for reasons of pure enjoyment, may think access to the railway is acceptable. We encourage our whole region and all of our communities to always be safe around our rail tracks. I want this opportunity to remind the public again that rail tracks are never safe for people. Trains are often not easy to see or easy to hear. Please be mindful and obey the safety signs that so widely placed throughout our network. And before we move on with our agenda, I'd like to share some other updates and events and celebrate some activities in our organization. This month, we recognize National Indigenous History Month, as our chair indicated. On June 21st, we acknowledged Indigenous Peoples Day, and on June 29th, we hosted the presentation around truths and reconciliation for all employees. The session was facilitated by guest presenters from Cambium, Indigenous Professional Services, and others. We also celebrated Pride Month, kicking off the month with an all-staff event. And on June 26, we participated in this year's in-person Pride Parade with our usual Ride with Pride, Go Bus Wrap, and Ride with Pride T-shirts, which staff were able to purchase, and the income of which we are donating to supporting our youth, which is an organization providing services and programming that supports LGBTQ2S youth and young adults. For the first time, we will also be partnering with Global Black Pride from July 27th to the 31st to celebrate LGBTQI+. I also want to recognize some individuals, both internally and externally, who were involved in saving the life of a VIA passenger earlier in March. Metrolinx staff, including Station Ambassador Josh Allen, team leads Catherine Irvine and Yinka Suleiman, customer care coordinators Kil Mitchell, Jeshi Melush, and Eva McGibbon, facility maintenance leader Samir Ali, along with VIA staff Bhavish Luximon, in charge member and engineer Oliver Maloney. You took quick action, working together to provide life-saving assistance, including chest compressions and using the AED, administering oxygen, alerting emergency service, and providing continued first aid and support to the victim, until EMS arrived and transported the individual to hospital. We have talked about incidents like this at the board so often, and it's sort of part of our conversation, and we deal with it as if it's an everyday event. But this is a life-changing event for the victim that were involved in this incident. And when our people and VIA's people play such a role in saving a life, I just think it's phenomenal. And that's where our training in first aid is so important, and in creating that safety culture in our organization. Thank you to all of you for the quick thinking and your swift actions. I also want to recognize our Chief Legal Officer, Heather Platt, and the entire legal team for being selected as an Excellence Awardee for Construction, Infrastructure, and Transportation Law, Department of the Year by the Canadian Law Awards. Heather and team, well done. So before we get to our next agenda item, I'm really excited to share a video which Sharon and the team put together, and I unceremoniously asked that it be made part of this part of the presentation, just to set you up for a sense of what our customer experience campaigns are and have been, in order to get customers back to our services. And the video highlights some of the multicultural messaging we've put in place, how we've highlighted travel opportunities across the region, events like St. Patrick's Day Parade, NHL Heritage, classic events as well as the Presto Perks attractions. And it's a very exciting video, and if we are ready, we can play it now, please.
The trains in Canada are huge!
It's a phenomenal window into all of the activities, which we don't always get to list and explain how much is happening in the marketing space. And I want to thank Mark and Sharon and the entire marketing team for a very active program to reach out to our customers and to reignite ridership recovery in the region. I'll now hand over to Sharon and to share some more exciting updates and details on further plans for the summer, supported by Kelly to talk about some of the community interactions.
Thank you very much. I'm very humbled and privileged to be here. As you can tell from that very vibrant video, there's a flurry of activity going on, and I'm just one part of a very big, very focused team working on all that incredible programming. It's starting to feel like the comeback is better than the setback. I will tell you that for sure. So I just wanted to start off and share, obviously you've heard from Phil's remarks, we're definitely seeing a steady and consistent growth of ridership across the network. Peak seeing that recovery between 50 and 61% per corridor, and that weekend ridership really is the hero. In fact, just on the weekend of June 18th to 19th, we saw 115% ridership across compared to our pre-COVID levels. And that was really fueled by, this reinstatement of weekend service, the return of in-person events for sure, and also the attractive offerings of our new unlimited weekend travel passes. And UP is also welcoming back the return of travel. We definitely predicted revenge travel, and that's certainly what we're seeing. We have also, that's the term for it, for sure. We've reintroduced, obviously, the 15-minute peak, as Phil mentioned, to help support and relieve some stress. And GoBus continues to see overall a high ridership, though we are working really closely with Eve and her wonderful team to find those seasonal route stops. And as Phil mentioned, we've added 4 this summer. So whether you want to go see the new baby cheetahs at the zoo or check out the new water park ride at Canada's Wonderland, well, we can take you there. So ridership trends are settling, and hopefully we'll learn a lot more of the coming months to help round out our programming. But one thing that hasn't changed from COVID is digital adoption. We've definitely seen a massive uptake in people ordering online groceries, and that is not changing. In the wane of this pandemic, people are still up to 50% of people still, myself included, ordering groceries online. And with that, our intent focus on creating personalized, responsive digital experiences hasn't changed. We're not taking our foot off the brakes at all. In fact, on June 10th, we just launched new and improved on-the-go alerts that provide much more customized, responsive emails to let you know about your service, schedule changes, and much more to come over the next year or so as we develop our marketing tech stack and roll out those experiences. So I just want to take just a quick look at each brand in the portfolio really quickly. So the team continues to deliver these amazing full funnel campaigns in 8 languages. Every campaign now is an integrated multicultural campaign, and they're consistently delivering around 300% above platform benchmarks. So what that tells us is that the creative is resonating, the message is relevant, and that's absolutely fantastic. So we're definitely seeing really strong results. In fact, this past week we relaunched our destination marketing campaign, Go Beyond, with hundreds of dynamic digital ads promoting summer routes all across the region, Niagara, Barrie, Hamilton. In fact, just this last week, we saw Barrie nudge ahead from web intent visits, beating Niagara for the very first time, which was shocking to all of us. Additionally, our Gen Z campaign, You Don't Need a Car to Go, that's now in market. Obviously positioning our 40% off discount and really the affordability and ease of taking Go over a car. And in fact, this cohort, what we're seeing is there is a declining interest in car ownership. So this is a really relevant message at this time for this particular segment. And I'd be remiss not to mention the very special Return to the Office program that my wonderful colleague Rick and his team have launched just in this last month. This is a corporate partnership program where employees of those corporations can avail of 3-month passes at a price point of $441 for unlimited travel for 3 months, just to help support their return to the workplace. We have 38 active partners at the moment, 17 in final negotiations, and additional 17 in the pipeline. So hugely successful, continues to drum up amazing interest from the industry. But the big opportunity here is the return of in-person events. The promotion team has contracted 36 event partners this year. We set ourselves a target of 30, but we have been inundated with offers from partners that want to partner with us. Events are back bigger and better than ever for sure. So in addition to wonderful perennial partners like the CNE, we also have a very intentional focus on multicultural events. You've seen those shots there from Calciday and Carasaga, much more to come. Toronto Caribbean Festival this year, we're so proud to partner with this team for the very first time in person, and also Bollywood for the first time. And having recently had the privilege to march in the parade this year, the Pride Parade this year, definitely the festival organizers shared with us it was the biggest, longest, and I can tell you that for waiting in line to get actually in the parade onto Yonge Street, and with the biggest turnout of crowds. So definitely the excitement and energy was palpable. But events are also happening in our parking lots, and you probably saw that photograph from the Halal Food Festival truck. This is we actually started off as an agreement to do 2 events in our parking lots for halal food trucks at the Toronto night market. Actually turned into 4, and those events actually had 100,000 visitors across our 4 parking lots. So hugely successful, and we're looking forward, hopefully, for next year to actually grow that partnership even more. It was such a wonderful partnership, and again, congratulations to our non-fair sales team. So regional travel is definitely booming, but like I mentioned, people are revenge traveling, and it's a rate that's actually testing the limits of the industry. And it's not just a Canada issue; it's a global issue. I recently experienced Dublin Airport, and it was an absolute nightmare. So with 6 in 10 Canadians planning and actively searching out travel, and Google reporting a 29% increase in travel spending, and now is the time for Up to relaunch its Keep Your Trip on Track campaign. It was a very successful campaign that we launched earlier this year. We'll be relaunching that with a much more vibrant Toronto Airport assets. And it's, again, reminding people that this is just one more way that you can reduce your stress in getting to and from the airport. Once you get to the airport, we can't help you, but we can get you there on time and reliably. One last note here, and not just relevant for UP, but for all of our brands, is my team has a real focus on finding ways to build really campaign complementary brand experiences and brand activations. Things that are really resonant and what we like to call the hack cultural moments. One recent success was, and you saw our TikToker Francis Bourgeois in the video, wonderful, very wholesome, authentic TikTok influencer from the UK who came over and developed 3 content videos for us. He even took a special trip to Willowbrook, which I think he nerded out the most about. He created those videos, generating 6.5 million views for our brands internationally, which is absolutely fantastic. And it was just a wonderful experience. So lots more of that to come. Acts over ads is kind of a big focus for us this year. So for Presto, really quickly, we're thrilled to see an explosive growth of our perks program. We set a goal, again, this year, 39 partners. We have 39 active partners, and they're offering discounts between 10 and 20% on admission. So at a time when personal economy is really top of mind for people with rising costs across the board, we humbly hope that these offers provide some relief as people get out and about and try and create some memories. So whether that's Great Wolf Lodge or a TFC game, the program really has something for everyone, and we're launching our 3rd flight of our advertising campaign, Perks for the People, in the coming weeks. So that's very exciting, and it's had great success thus far. And I also wanted to briefly call out, as Phil mentioned, co-fare program is doing extremely well. We've seen month-over-month growth of 30% of the discounts being used. Right now we're at a total of about 615,000. And that's largely due to the amazing partnership that we have with those transit agency partners who are offering up space so we can put co-branded assets across their network. So we really appreciate their support. And while I've spent a lot of time talking about how we're developing these integrated marketing communication programs for riders, we do want to continue to drive awareness to the riders of the future. So the Metrolinx brand will be reflighting its high-performing campaign from last year, the More Than Transit campaign, in 8 languages across social, digital, radio, and out of home. And we'll be popping up at events throughout the season, just like we did at the Toronto Newcomer Fair, just to educate people about the network that we're building. But there's so much more incredible project-level communication support that's happening, so I'll pass that over to Kelly, who can provide you with some of those highlights.
Thank you, Sharon. So from local billboards to pop-ups and cleanup days in local parks to talking to neighbors on doorsteps, our multilingual community engagement teams are back out in neighborhoods, connecting residents to transit, and are learning about what matters the most as we build more. Our community team speaks over 17 languages and have been busy over the past few months knocking on over 21,000 doors and have popped up at over 129 parks and festivals around the region. We have over 80 more of those planned this summer and into the fall. Being out, engaging, and listening to residents does result in a better outcome for our projects. We know how important park spaces are to residents. In some cases, we are able to improve and make those park spaces larger, renaturalizing green spaces, and being able to bring the community voice into our decision-making through design excellence competitions. So look out for us, and we encourage everyone to come and say hi when you see us at a local park nearby.
Yep. Thanks, Kelly. So I hope today and the video that Phil stole from me really demonstrate the great collaboration that the marketing team has with great partnership across the entire organization to innovate, create, and execute. I think it was Churchill who said, never waste a good crisis. And I think the learnings from the last 2 years is we've been able to be agile, to innovate, to collaborate so much better that it really sets us up for what I hope is a really strong recovery future. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Questions for Sharon and Kelly? Yes.
Yes, thank you very much, and congratulations. It's all very, very cool. I'm still stuck on the phrase revenge travel. Great phrase. 2 questions. How is our signage program, like our billboard program, because I know that I remember when it was introduced to us, and I'm starting to see more of them around, so I was just curious whether that was meeting expectations in terms of revenue and that kind of thing. And secondly, the international hits, are we deliberately reaching out to international audiences, or are they just sort of a nice outcome of the stuff that we're doing? And if we are deliberately doing it, what's our analysis? I mean, do we get enough international travel that sort
Yeah.
of people that it's worth it? Or I was just
Yeah.
kind of curious about that.
No, it's a great question. And I'll answer the second question, but I'll let Mark answer the first one. So we chose Francis because he's such an incredible influencer, and he does have a huge Canadian following. So when the opportunity was presented to us, it only made sense to make sure that one of those 3 content plays that we had with him was Up Express.
So did they come to us?
Well, we had the idea with our agency, reached out, we developed the program, but when we looked at and did a scan of like the thousands of engagements that we had on, like the comments that we had on his posts, welcome to Canada, there was a huge Canadian following, and then a lot of surprise and delight that, you know, Toronto actually has this Airlink from those international commenters. So that was super interesting. It was a nice bonus, I will say. Mark, did you want to take the first question?
Yeah, Jennifer, if I take your question, just I would say to you, the first thing is that advertising is definitely coming back. We're seeing that across all of our assets, not just the billboards. We're seeing that on our Wi-Fi portal. We're seeing it in just about every asset that we have. In terms of billboards, actually currently so far into the year, we're actually tracking slightly ahead of where we anticipated being. And of course, we are continuing to expand, and we're hoping to build some new billboards imminently to continue that momentum. And I think it's a testament to ridership returning, and the audience with an average 45-minute trip are definitely on board, an opportunity for us to commercialize, but also for those folks that are on the road on our property. We do have a captive audience for those billboards. So definitely ahead of schedule at the moment.
Good. Something you might want to think about reaching out, because if we're having that kind of impact internationally, the agencies that do investment attraction, like Toronto Global, for example, for the Toronto region, I mean, there might be some interesting joint, mutually beneficial marketing opportunities there. So,
Great. Thank you very much.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you very much. Oh, sorry. I didn't see that.
Yeah, tremendous, exciting activities across. On Presto Perks, I can't resist to ask that question. Like, it seems like a great value add to someone who has a Presto card. So how simple is it for a consumer to take advantage of this? You think the Honda Indy is one of the things you noticed here. So what does a user actually have to do to take advantage of that discount?
It's different partner by partner. For some, it's just show up. So for example, I can show up at the ROM, just show my Presto card and immediately get the dollars off admission. For some partners, it's online purchase. You put in your Presto card number as your promo code number. So we're working with each of the partners to make it as flexible and easy for possible and understand their channels, so we can have a redemption that's really convenient for customers. Ultimately, where do we want to get this program to is something where we have the tools and technology so we can have measurement purchase much easier, but that is definitely in the planning as part of our customer digital transformation strategy. But again, working with the partners to make sure that it works for them.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good. Next up, Matt is going to take us through some capital project news.
Good morning. As Phil said in his opening remarks, it's going to be my pleasure to step us through some examples of the exciting work that's happening on capital projects across the region. Just a huge amount happening both in procurement, design and construction on all the portfolios on rapid transit, subways and GO expansion. And we've just picked 6 examples of projects with significant progress on the ground to give you a feel for the work that's happening out there and some of the progress being made. So I'm hoping the clicker's going to work. There we go. So we're going to start with the rapid transit portfolio in the Finch West Light Rapid Transit, LRT, an 11-kilometre rapid transit line running along Finch Avenue West from Humber College to the new Finch West subway station on TTC's York Spadina subway line. So this project's been moving very, very rapidly over the last 2.5 years through the pandemic. And very exciting, it is now moving into a test and commissioning phase for a significant part of the project. And what we can see here is vehicles being tested on the line, which commenced back in May. These vehicles will reach speeds of 60 kilometres an hour and have been running along a 1.8 kilometre stretch of Finch Avenue West between Pelican Gate and Sentinel Road, which is a fantastic achievement for the project and also a real visual sign that this project is moving very rapidly into a test and commissioning phase and allowing people to see what this project is really going to look like and what they're going to get at the end of this construction. And it's not just the vehicles that we're testing, we're also moving into testing phases for the railway systems, including communications, doors, electrical connectivity and power transfers. And for the vehicles, we're obviously testing how the vehicles perform, how they accelerate, how they perform under braking, to ensure that when we bring this line into use, in accordance with some of the earlier questions on ECLRT, we're going to provide a safe and smooth subway operation. So really, really good progress on Finch Rapid Transit. We're very pleased with how that project is moving on. Moving into the subway space. It's not working. Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so turning our attention to subways. What we can see here is one of our early works demolition projects for the Ontario line. And this demolition is happening at the future site of the Corktown station, located at King Street East and Parliament Street. So as you can see here, demolition works well underway. This was previously a Porsche dealership and a Staples store, which have both been relocated to new homes and are back up and running in their new locations. This picture is actually, I believe, all that's left of the Porsche showroom. The next step after the demolition works here will be removal of the asphalt, decommissioning of utilities, soil removal, soil remediation. And we're doing this work as an early work to significantly de-risk the follow-on contracts where we'll start the major construction of this station. So speaking of the major projects for Ontario Line, as we know, we have two very large packages of work out in the market at the moment. We have a South Civils package out and a rolling stock systems operations and maintenance package. We have three pre-qualified bidders on each of those packages, and we now have all 6 bids submitted by our deadline and are now in valuation. So a massive step forward for
Matt, just a quick question. This is the site that used to be way back when the Parliament, the first Ontario Parliament site?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Are there any archaeological interesting things happening on that we've discovered something or anything like that?
There's a separate, yes. There's a separate archaeological team that's set together with wide representation that's meticulously observing and looking at what happens on site during the recovery and demolition. And when they detect anything of archaeological interest, we will take the due care and turn it into an archaeological story. There's also the intent that when we get to the definition of what the station looks like, that the heritage associated with the first Parliament would be celebrated in that site.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
No, it's good. No, yeah, I mean, this is a very significant site for us and a very significant site for the project, obviously for the reasons you're just mentioning, but also within our reference content design. This is where we have nominated the launch site for the tunnel excavation equipment. So this is moving this site on and de-risking this area is absolutely critical for performance of the project going forward. Okay. Moving on to the GO expansion programme at Bramley GO station. So last fall, we were very pleased to announce that we brought the new station building and the brand new parking garage into use. And now pleased to say that we've reached another big milestone on this project with the new bus loop coming into operation for GO Transit and Brampton Transit buses. So a great example of how we're striving to make station access easier for people arriving at our locations. Obviously the parking garage serves those who want to park and ride, but we've also spent a significant amount of time improving pedestrian and cycling access, and these investments make it much faster and easier for people to use our facilities. So a fantastic achievement at Bramley. The Steeles Avenue entrance exit to the station is being moved to create bus-only transit lines, separating transit from cars, boosting efficiency and enhancing safety. So good to see this project moving very rapidly along now.
That's the best looking parking garage I think I've ever seen.
It's something, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, Eglinton Crosstown. So something a little bit different on Eglinton Crosstown here. We often talk about the progress, but we're seeing a lot of, obviously, heavily into test and commissioning phase for Eglinton Crosstown. A lot of vehicle testing happening out on the alignment now, as we spoke about earlier. But alongside that, we have our stations coming together very, very rapidly, and the above ground stations really, obviously, taking shape and really coming to life. And here we can see the exterior of the Oakwood station in the Little Jamaica neighbourhood. It's one of the line's underground stations west of Young, 2 entrances, one of which is fully accessible. Seeing these stations really coming together now is a real sign of completion of this work, and I think it's very exciting for these communities and also for us. There's a very difficult place to construct a station, as you can probably imagine, so it's great for us to see the bollards and the pylons coming down and the lanes being opened up and the neighbourhood returning to normal. So great to see this moving on. This is one example of integrated art. The Metrolinx blog, I think, as of today, has other examples of how art has been integrated into the stations on Eglinton Crosstown. So most of the stations on Eglinton Crosstown due to reach completion at the end of the summer, so as we drive forward to finish that project and bring it into use.
Are we involving, do we involve the community in some of the choice of art stuff?
We do, yeah. So there's a public realm piece of work that goes on to make sure that we're fully involving the neighbourhoods. Okay, just down the road from Eglinton Crosstown is the Eglinton Crosstown West Extension. I think there'll be a video. So what you can see here is our 2 tunnel boring machines on the Eglinton Crosstown Extension. We have Rennie here, so the 2 machines are called Rex and Rennie, and here we have Rennie starting the first tunnel, hitting completion of the first 50 metres of the tunnel back in May, which was a massive milestone for the project, as you can imagine. Since then, Rennie has now completed 275 metres of tunnel, and we're looking to launch Rexy, the second tunnel boring machine, in about 2 weeks' time. So they'll be hard at work for the next 20 months as they work towards 2 6-kilometre tunnels expected for completion in 2024. So Eglinton Crosstown West Extension is 9.2 kilometres, and it takes the Eglinton Crosstown from the station that we've constructed at Mount Dennis to Renforth. Yeah.
Just a quick question. As we move through the development phase, especially the Eglinton West LRT, there are some portions of our line that'll be above grade, and we're actually going across some green areas and some sensitive areas. Can you take us through what staff has done to engage the community and ensure that whatever we're building has certainly got their input? And I think Kelly's done some work. They would like to hear how staff has addressed some of the concerns.
I think I'll let Kelly answer that.
There you go.
But just to say that the sections that you're talking about there, we have 2 more advanced, and we have 2 advanced tunnel contracts as part of Eglinton West and 1 advanced guideway contract, and I think the advanced guideway contract is the piece that you're thinking about.
I think that's the one that we've got some correspondence submitted, and would like to hear a little bit about how we're going to address some of those concerns.
Yeah, thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. So first, I just want to acknowledge the community letters that we have received, and I do look forward to connecting with each person who has written into us to talk to them specifically about their concerns and what our plans are. Over the last couple of years, we have held about 12 virtual open houses to hear directly from community members about this particular portion of the project. We've held about 40 meetings as well with community leaders in the organization. We've launched a few design surveys. We've distributed letters, flyers, postcards to local houses and to residents in that neighborhood. But we have much more planned. We're not done on community engagement, nor are we done on the planning of and the design of this particular part of the project. Very soon, we're going to be opening a community office at Scarlet Avenue, so we look forward to having community members pop in directly to us to see boards, see pictures, see images of what the future is going to look like. I do recognize it's very challenging sometimes for communities to see what the end state is going to look like or feel it. They need to see it, so that office is going to have a lot of presentation boards available for that viewing. We also are going to have an open house in person in July. So while we've had a very virtual environment over the past number of years because of COVID, we will be holding an in-person open house in July in this neighborhood. We also look forward to launching a design excellence working group. So this is going to be made up of leaders in the community where we're going to seek their input on the design of the infrastructure to ensure it fits seamlessly within the neighborhood, that we're taking very care of the concerns that the community is raising. I encourage anyone to follow us on metrolinxengage.com. That's our engagement platform where everyone can see and participate in surveys, sign up to our newsletters, and witness the progress that the projects are making.
Terrific, thank you.
No problem. Maybe stay here because we're doing Davenport Diamond next, so we can talk some about the public realm work that's happened there if you like. So finally, back to the Go expansion programme, and as you're just hearing, I'll ask Kelly to talk about some of the public realm work here because it's very relevant for this project as well. We've spoken about this project before at board, but just to recap, currently the Go VRL and Canadian Pacific trains cross a flat diamond at Davenport, limiting the frequency and reliability of the Go service. So we need to address this issue before we can start moving towards high-frequency two-way service on the Barrie line. So we are lifting up the Go tracks 1.4 over a distance of 1.4 kilometres into the air to create this grade separation, and that eliminates the diamond crossing. It also eliminates a level crossing at Wallace Avenue. It's a structure that's two parts really. One is a solid earthwork berm, and then what we have here on the screen here, which is an elevated guideway. The elevated guideway consists of 29 spans. We've got 6 spans complete on both for both the east and the west tracks. Construction of the project started in April 2020, and in April 2022 we reached the exciting milestone of the girders starting to come into play with a very innovative and for me exciting gantry system, specialist gantry system erected for the purpose. So a really good project. Really happy with this project, moving very, very well towards completion. The first stage completion, which is everything down, the concrete deck down, ready for trains to run at the end of this year, and then into operational readiness phase at the beginning of 2023. So we should be seeing trains running on this very, very early next year, which will be a fantastic achievement and a real early release of benefits to the network. And there is a significant part of this, which is public realm interface, heavily involved with the community about how we develop the areas below the guideway. So.
Yeah, and thanks, Matt. I mean, this is very consistent with the approach that we're taking with all of our capital infrastructure. We recognize that, this is a structure and this is what needs to be built in order to carry our transit, ensure that our customers are safe. But there's a huge opportunity to work with the community at making sure that it fits into that neighborhood. There's going to be park spaces underneath that guideway. Same tool will supply for all of the other processes that we're going to have in place on the other structures where elevated guideways are being built. This is about purposeful community engagement to ensure that we're leaving infrastructure that not only is providing them access to transit, but improve community spaces.
And a multi-use path that allow for connectivity through the community. And
Good.
Okay. And that's it. So that's just 6 examples of some of the exciting work that's underway at the moment. But hopefully that gives a feel for as I said at the start, for some of the progress being made in the region.
Thanks, Matt. Let's see if there's some people ask questions during the process here, but is there any other questions anybody would like to ask of Matt or Kelly? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So the next order of business is our annual report, which is ready to go, and we're going to approve it. I think Justina is going to. Trish?
No, I'm sorry. Are you okay?
David?
You can always join us.
The whole team.
The whole team.
The whole team.
So good morning. So perhaps I will kick us off and then I will pass it to David.
Please.
Okay.
So Metrolinx is required to prepare annual report in keeping with the requirement of the Metrolinx Act and Agencies and Appointment Directive. The report must be submitted also for Minister's approval. The management requests the board to approve the annual report which is also in line with the recommendation from Audit, Finance, and Management Committee. The report includes detail on how Metrolinx performed operationally and financially compared to the business plan that was issued at the beginning of the fiscal year, and also the mandate letter that we received for 2021-22 fiscal year. On the financial side, the annual report includes audited financial statements. I must say that as every year, we have received clean opinion from our external auditors. And I will perhaps highlight two key financials. One, that we actually achieved a surplus on our operating subsidy line, and we will be releasing 55 million of the allocated operating subsidy. And also that Metrolinx achieved 180 million of operating savings as part of the implemented business improvement plans, which actually exceeded the original target by 36 million. And now I will pass it to David.
So you have obviously have the document in front of you to be able to go into great detail, but just wanted to note a couple of things. It really was an incredible year for Metrolinx, from our capital program, seeing an incredible investment of over 5.2 billion in all the projects that we just looked at, advancing signature programs including Go Expansion, Eglinton Crosstown LRT, Finch West, and here Ontario LRTs, to our Go and Up services achieving a 97% on-time performance, amazing, to the entire organization's continued relentless focus on maintaining that customer-focused vision as well as a culture of safety. The report itself also includes an overview of how we've supported some key government priorities, including ensuring customer safety, supporting economic recovery, and monitoring COVID-19 to determine short and long-term recovery decisions, expanding and enhancing service through optimization of rail service frequency and train size, as well as our bus service, and continuing to advance subways and light rail transit projects. An incredible amount of work has been undertaken by the team this past year, and we're very pleased to be able to present the results to you in this report. And if you have any questions, we're of course here to answer them, as well as our colleagues from the executive team.
We've had quite an opportunity to look at this in the audit committee, and but I'd like to open it up to questions. Anybody have a question or a comment on the annual report? Okay, I don't see any, so could I have a motion to approve the annual report?
Happy to move it.
Thank you, Michael. Seconder? Thanks, Toby. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? No. Okay, carried. Thank you. Thank you very much. The next item has to do with Presto, and because we're going to a new form of open payments, we need to change a bylaw. So Trish, you're going to speak to that?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Good morning. As Phil mentioned in his CEO report, we're excited to announce that Metrolinx is expanding contactless fare payment to Go Transit, where customers will have the option to tap a physical or virtual credit card on station and bus Presto devices. You may be aware that we had a proof of concept on the Up Express for contactless payment, and any learnings that we had from the Up Express pilot will be used in conjunction with the launch on Go. And Go Transit, we're also changing, and on Up Express, we're changing our fare inspection model. Previously, we had a post-processing, perhaps you would call it an overnight processing for fare inspection, and we're moving to a real-time fare inspection such that when any inspection will occur, we'll be able to real-time issue any notice of violation or Provincial Offences Notice Act if required. So this requires a resolution that the Bylaw 2A be revised to implement Presto contactless payment on Go Transit, and replace and revised to reflect the new inspection model. And it requires that the chairman and the secretary sign the new bylaws. Approval of the new bylaw amendment will allow us to launch real-time contactless payment on Go Transit and realign Up Express to a real-time fare inspection model.
Questions? I don't have a question on this. Okay, there are no questions, so could I have a motion? Thank you, Janet. A seconder? Thanks, Sylvie. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, it's carried unanimously. Thank you, Trish.
Keep up the good work. Thank you.
Okay. So the next item is something that we just take as read, is the quarterly reports from the different areas of the firm. Does anybody have a question that they'd like to pose on any of those issues? I mean, we've had a chance to sort of look at them through our committee meetings and what have you, so. No? Okay. Okay, so that brings us at the end of our public session. I appreciate everybody joining us who joined us today. Thank you very much, and we'll terminate the meeting.